Trump wins. What's the trade? Nvidia into the Dow while Intel goes out. We got FOMC and BOE both going to cut. Palladium and gold both going lower. This is JC Direct 609 for 7 November, recorded just after market open. My name is Simon Brown. This podcast is brought to you by Just One Lap, and there was no show last week. Apologies for that. I was neck deep in a bad cold. My head was mush. And the problem is I can't get it out there and say, sorry, folks, nothing is happening. If I haven't warned you, assume that I'm sick or incapacitated or something. Certainly, that's how it is felt. I want to kick off with Myron Roberts, so we can learn interesting things around one business by looking at what's potentially happening in another space. And Myron Roberts is just one of those. Let me pull up their Sense announcement. What we had was their Sense. It's an operational update, and they talk here. There's a lot of bad news in Myron Roberts. They just don't have enough cash to basically work on their projects. But the group's mining business in South Africa has for more than a decade been working with De Beers and its Venetia project. Recently, De Beers informed the group that is reviewing its operational plan at the mine and that a significant portion of the works under Myron Roberts' contract will be imminently de-scoped. In essence, Myron Roberts is going to be having less work from De Beers, and that then tells you something truthfully we knew, that De Beers is cutting back. Why? Demand. There's not enough demand for their diamonds. We see that because Anglo American publishes De Beers' rough diamond sales, so we kind of knew it was coming. This just then confirms it. It's always interesting to get snippets from sort of the other side of the fence. We see it with trading updates, right? Particularly in the retail space. Pepcore, we've been gaining market share. Cool. But who's been losing the market share? Now, no one ever comes and says you've been losing it, but you can see it happening. We saw with Pick n Pay and Spar that they simply had negative volumes. And you could tell because like-for-like sales were up, say, 4%, while internal inflation was, say, 7%. That is negative 3% in terms of absolute volumes. So we can often get good information from others as it comes through. Nvidia is going into the Dow Jones, the most useless index in the world. I'll explain why I say that in a second. But we've got Nvidia into the Dow Jones and Intel is coming out of the Dow Jones. So why is the Dow the most useless index in the world? Truthfully, it works. I mean, let's be clear about that. It does work. What I call it useless for is that it is a price-based index. In other words, you all have to be around about the same sort of price, and then it's just, well, if you're up $5, you add $5 to the index. If you're down 4, you take 4 off the index. Weirdly, it kind of works. I suppose we shouldn't be too tough on them. That's the break I spoke about a couple of weeks ago. I've been long Nvidia for a while. It's broken higher. It is trading at all-time highs. We saw results coming through from the likes of Microsoft, Meta, Alphabet. Their CapEx spend is basically buying Nvidia chips. Their CapEx spend is going to be Nvidia's profits. So we've seen good numbers out of them. They're still spending truckloads on CapEx. We'll get results from Nvidia coming through shortly, and then we will get a better sense. But the Dow's a weird index. There's not many trackers on it. I suppose it gives them some credibility in a sense, maybe. Intel out, Nvidia in. Fair enough. Okay, if that's what you want. But let's stay there. Oops, clicked the wrong button. ASML. So what does ASML do? They make the equipment that is used then in production of semiconductor chips. They had a fairly poor forward guidance. It wasn't the results that were poor, it was forward guidance that was poor, and it has spooked the market. And we've seen, you can see there it was there, fairly aggressive sell-off. It's come down a fair bit from its 1100 highs down to 661. We want to play the AI, and you can go and get Meta or Microsoft or any one of other sort of AIs out there, Alphabet. But for all of them, AI is important and might become critical in their life and time. But at this point, AI is but a small part. So how do you play AI the other ways? Well, you go and buy yourself Nvidia, who provide the chips, or you go and get someone like ASML, who provide the equipment that make the chips. Now, they've had a tough time. Their forward-looking statement was like, we're just not getting the contracts we're looking for. We're not expecting the level of sales that we were hoping. But they have equipment that no one else does. They're ultraviolet, extreme ultraviolet, and a whole bunch else. They just have stuff that no one else has. And ultimately, when chip production it starts booming again, they're going to be getting the phone calls. This is, to my mind, an opportunity to buy a stock that is actually looking at a better price. At 1,100, was it expensive? Well, I think that was all-time highs. It's now pulled back. I'm not seeing any support here. I'm not seeing any reason why we should be rushing out and buying it. We can draw that there and come to a bit of a story. At this point, I would be looking for a reversal signal. We certainly don't have it yet, but it is one that is on my list because I like to buy them cheap rather than buy them expensive. In terms of analysis, forecasts, we've got 10 holds, 21 buys, 8 strong buys. Target price as average is 918, and it is below the average price. So certainly some value there. If we go to more broadly its pricing, I mean, its forward PE is 26. Its mean PE is 44. So, yeah, I think there might be some opportunity here. It is on my list at this point in time, not rushing out. CrowdStrike is the other one that I like. I bought it, unfortunately, just before the crazy collapse. Let's go down. But it has recovered. Remember, they shut down the internet essentially with a bad update. What we've seen there was the bad update to Microsoft computers the world over. It did collapse. It has now recovered. I suspect it is now, it doesn't go, there we go, year to date. It is green again year to date. Okay, look at that. That chart is looking good. If you think that you wanted to buy it and were scared by the collapse, here's your chance. Yes, Delta is suing them for $500 million. We'll see how that goes. The one argument is there's surely the T's and C's that you sign. Say, if we mess up, sorry, but it's on you. The other argument could just be, come on, Delta. No one else was taken out for that period of time. They couldn't operate for like about a week, and maybe it's actually Delta's fault. I don't know. Either way, I like CrowdStrike, and it is running quite nicely. We can't argue with that. That's looking good. We've got some collapsing prices. Let's start with Palladium. So we spoke around Palladium 2 weeks ago, when what we had was the G7 essentially, rather the US saying to the G7, folks, we think that we should perhaps be, sanctioning Russian palladium. Now, lovely idea. Of course, the stark reality is that how the oil sanctions going on Russia. Not at all. By reports that I saw out recently, they're selling to India. India's refining it and selling it to Europe and basically taking the premium. Palladium has come back down. It was looking good. It looks like it could go. It looks on that chart that it's going to go back to around the 9 or even 850 levels. Palladium having a tough time of it. The Sibanye-Stillwater production update looked like they've hit the bottom. Let's be clear, they're not roaring off anywhere, but it did look like maybe they had hit the bottom. Now they need the PGM prices to follow through. At this point, they're not. I mean, we saw that spike. It's basically come back down. Platinum trading within the range, which is sort of 1,100 at the high and 850 at the low. Gold had a tough session yesterday. Why can I not... XAU USD. There is gold. Gold had a very, very tough session, coming back quite markedly. It almost got to 2,800. High was $2,789.86. That's the spot, not the future. And now we're down at 2,063. That is quite a sell-off. It's not to be unexpected. How far down? We might be seeing some support at around the 2650. Otherwise, next support is around 25. Otherwise, we're back to 24. But the story for gold remains. I mean, that's the short answer. And the story is the creating the sort of weaponization of the US dollar, particularly post the Ukrainian invasion. Central bankers are buying. Your likes of Russia, your likes of China, they suddenly realized, hang on, this dollar might be a little more risky than we thought. Dollar T-bills, treasury notes might be a little more risky than we thought. Where do we go for less risk? It is into gold. This is not going to change. If anything, under a Trump presidency, we're likely to see less harmonious global relations, more fractious global relations, and that plays directly into gold. So this sell-off in gold hasn't bothered me in the least. It's all well and good. We've got later today the Bank of England cutting rates. We've got the FOMC cutting rates. Well, I say cutting rates all big and brave. The rate decisions will be announced. They're going to cut rates. It's probably going to be 0.25% each and continue that downward trend. We've got our own MPC later this month who will also be having a meeting. And again, I'm going to say our MPC later this month who will be cutting rates. And I appreciate I'm making bold claims there, but that certainly is my sense, is that we're in the rate cutting cycle. Our own MPC is meeting 21 October. So we're still a little ways away before we get the announcement there. But we are in the rate cutting cycle. It is happening. There is no reason why the Bank of England, or for that matter, the FOMC, should decide, no, we don't want to do it anymore. That's exactly what they're doing. They are cutting rates. So we got a Trump victory during the week in terms of presidential election. Remember, he doesn't actually take office until, is it 20 or 21 January? So we've got 10 weeks plus before he actually gets into power. The immediate response from markets was higher. S&P, Nasdaq, all-time highs. Bitcoin, all-time highs. Rand weekend. There was a lot of talk, Rand collapses. It wasn't the Rand collapsing, people. Bear with me. It was dollar strength. It really was just dollar strength. And let's pull up that DXY chart. DXY, of course, is it is your dollar index, so it shows you what's happening in the dollar. DXY has been bouncing strongly after it hit the 100 down in late September. Our rand at that point was 17. It's now bounced to almost 105, and in fact traded 105 yesterday, that being Wednesday. We saw massive dollar strength leading into the election. We've seen a little bit of weakness. Our rand is a little bit better today. Where's my rand there? I think we're trading down 1751. We were out at 1780. The initial response was strength. Russian, confusion. Trump's won, don't know what it means. Russian to dollar, and then think, well, hang on a second. Maybe we do know what it means, but more importantly, there's still time to come, and more importantly, there's other things out there we can be investing in. The problem with a Trump presidency, and how do we as investors play it, is that the truth of the matter is Trump has no idea what he's going to do, and he'll probably follow through with very little of it. Think about his first term and all the promises. Build a wall. He built some wall, but not very much of it. He was going to overhaul / throw away Affordable Care Act. Never happened. Construction week was always going to happen in a couple of weeks. It never happened. So it's difficult to say what will his next 4 years be. I think there are certainly a couple of areas which are obvious. He doesn't like many of the global treaties, in a sense, that around climate change, NATO being one of them. If I was Ukraine, I would be very afraid. He's going to chummy up to people like Putin. That's all well and good. It's weird because Putin's our friend too. And I say, the royal right? BRICS. South Africa was just in Russia at a BRICS summit. So that's a little bit weird in that regard. But nonetheless, those are going to get tossed out. The key point he's been talking is tariffs. Now, he would tell you that tariffs don't create inflation. They do. Come on, this is not even economics 101. This is just economics one. Right? If you're an importer in America and it costs you $100 to land whatever that good is, and there's suddenly a 10% tariff from that particular country, it's now going to cost you $110. It just cost you $10 more, and you got nothing for that $10. Nothing. The U.S. Treasury gets it. Yes, they've charged the 10 and they receive it. You did not. You're going to push that on. Let's say you were selling it for 150, you're now going to sell it for 160. That is inflationary. Point is he going to do the 60% on everything Chinese? Is he going to do 10% on absolutely everything? Is he going to do the 100% that he was at one point talking about as well? We simply don't know. From economics, it is a horrendous idea. Make no mistake. It is stupidity 10/10. I mean, that is the absolute truth of it. Will he do it? We don't know. That is to look out for. What he is going to do, and he started it in his first term, Biden has continued it in the second term, and that is the crackdown on China. And that will continue. And there's a bunch of reasons for it. A lot of that crackdown is around technology. Trump started it because of trade balances, but it's become under Biden much more nuanced towards technology and, in essence, trying to stop China to becoming the competing technological superpower to the U.S. If that continues, what China does is makes their own technology, except they can't buy stuff from ASML now suddenly, and that becomes all sorts of difficult because no one else makes it. But China is, well, if we can't buy it from you, we will make it. And it might take them 5 years or a decade to the point where they actively can, but nonetheless, that's the thinking there. But if he's going after China, then what we're going to have, it's bad for us as a country in South Africa, because quite simply, we need China to boom to buy our commodities. And if China is being repressed by the U.S., then they're not going to be booming, and we're not going to see the commodity buying. Maybe China says, well, let's just go bigger on stimulus. We will see in time. It's still more than 10 weeks, as I said, before Trump actually gets into the White House. So we'll see that. There is, of course, AGOA that is being renewed next year. There is undoubtedly risks around that, and that would be bad for us. Make no mistake. Electric vehicles. So him and Musk have been best mates the last couple of months. But let's be clear, Trump just saw an opportunity there, and Elon Musk saw an opportunity there as well. Is that bromance going to last 4 years? Not a chance. Not a chance at all. Is Trump going to go all in on EVs? No, it was transactional for him. Musk was spending money in his campaign, so he loved electric vehicles. Does he really love them? Is he going to do legislation around it to try and enhance? Probably not. So I don't see a big thing there for electric vehicles. Crypto, he was all over crypto as well. But again, he was being supported by some very wealthy crypto bros. So he was just talking the talk. Bitcoin has hit all-time highs. Absolutely it has. And I hold some Bitcoin. Happy with that. But again, is Bitcoin, does he intuitively care about crypto? No, he does care about one. He has one of his own altcoins, and he definitely cares about that one. Make no mistake. But the crypto is not something that Trump has much caring about. Truthfully, there's not much he has much caring about. Let's be clear. And let's be clear, he's not a massively astute businessman. For goodness sake, the man bankrupted a casino, which is legislated to make profit. So one thing, oil. He will be a drill baby drill type of oil. He's not interested in this energy transition. He has no interest in green. That could change, but certainly he wants American oil independence. America has it, but now he wants to export more. So we are going to see, I suspect, a lot more oil coming in. They, of course, don't give a hoot about OPEC or OPEC plus, so probably lower oil prices. But truthfully, what is a Trump presidency over the next 4 years? We don't know, because he doesn't know. And it's going to depend who's whispering in his ears, who's giving him money, who's his current best friend for life, and that will change over the period. So in the immediate, And Trump's in power. So be it. In America voted, you get who you vote for. That's all well and good. The point being that this idea that we know what he's going to do and how he's going to implement it, I'm not so sure. I had Peter Reidenhuis on my MoneyWeb Now show this morning. He was talking around an ETF, MSOS. It is a marijuana ETF. He's like, Trump's going to legalize marijuana. Yeah, but we all thought Joe Biden would. Marijuana is legal at state levels, at some states, but not at federal level. And that creates all sorts of problems, like you can't have a bank account, you can't move it across state lines. It needs to be legalized at federal level. Maybe he does that. Who knows? MSOS is the ETF that Petri was talking about in that particular point. Again, we'll see, we'll find out in time. The key point, perhaps, is that markets go up. Almost regardless, you go look at 100 years of S&P 500 chart and try and tell me, spot, there was a Democrat, there was a Republican. Yeah, we've had financial crises, we've had market collapses, pandemics, etc. But almost irrelevant of who's in the White House, markets go higher.
JSE is a registered trademark of the JSE Limited. JSE Direct is an independent broadcast and is not endorsed or affiliated with, nor has it been authorized or otherwise approved by JSE Limited. The views expressed in this program are solely those of the presenter and do not necessarily reflect the views of JSE Limited.
As always, risk disclaimers, important things that those are. Let's park that here. We will be back to normal business next week. My cold is gone. Apologies about skipping last week. My name is Simon. We'll chat next week. As always, look after yourself. If you can, look after somebody else as well.